Hi, my name is Brenna Ellison. I'm a professor in agricultural economics at Purdue University, and I also have the privilege of serving as the director for the Center for Food Conservation and Waste Reduction. Today, I want to take a few minutes and walk you through our center's website to help show you resources that might be useful for you at home to help you better manage your food and reduce food waste. So, with that, I'm going to take you to our center's website. You can find us online at conservefood.org. This is what our homepage looks like. So this is conservefood.org. And then we've got lots of tabs at the top. Today, we're going to start with our Learn and Explore tab. So here you can see a few different options, but I want to start out by just telling you a little bit more about what food conservation is. So in our center, we define food conservation as proactively managing your food practices. And this covers the whole continuum of household food management. So you start with meal planning in your grocery shopping, but then we also need to think about how we store our food, how we prepare and cook it, and even how we serve it, as well as how to use up those leftovers in your food before it goes bad. So that's just to give you a little bit of an idea of how we think about food conservation. But I also want to show you, we have a page with some quick tips on how you can do a good job conserving food at home. So here again, we think about that whole continuum, and we've got this, what we call an accordion that has tips with the different stages. So you can see on meal planning, it talks about mapping out a plan that works for you, being a realistic planner, things like that. As you click through each part of the accordion, it will give you some different tips. So we have shopping, we have storage, we have food prep and cooking. And then as you go through, we also have advice for serving and utilizing your leftovers and even avoiding the landfill. So we also need to think about what we do with our food when we decide not to eat it. So are we putting it in the trash? Are we feeding it to animals? Are we composting it? Or would we like to find somewhere to recycle or compost our food? And so we think about tips and resources that might help someone do that. I also want to point out these are some quick tips, but we actually have a more extensive resource library. So if you go to the resource library page, we have almost 200 resources in our library right now, and we build on it each month. We try to find new resources every month to add and grow our library. And at the top, you can see different ways to filter resources. So maybe you're someone who really wants some help with meal planning. So you can actually go to the meal planning theme here. And if you click it and then scroll down, it will actually sort out the resources that are specifically tied to meal planning below. So you can see we have 46 that are at least tagged to be in the meal planning space. You could also decide that maybe you're someone who's trying to teach your kids at home about food waste. So you can instead click the Made for Kids tool, take off meal planning, and there's about 12 resources that are about helping teach kids about food waste. So you can kind of scroll through them and take a look and see what works for you. Now, we curate these resources from all over the internet. They're not necessarily ones that we develop. So we try to find the best resources out there and then put them all in one place to help households do better with their food at home. Under our Learn and Explore tab, we also have our Center's blog. So this is where we try to write about timely topics that would be helpful to households. So a few of our most recent ones that might be helpful to read or look at if you want. So we do have an Ask the Expert blog series. And so this, the most recent one is about a professional chef's tips and tricks to have zero waste cooking at home. And then another one that's really helpful, we hear a lot about food date labels and how they're a source of confusion for consumers. So in this particular blog post, we tried to write out and tell households more about what they mean, what policy looks like in this area, and things of that nature. So you can scroll down and read more about date labels. This is like the best by, use by, sell by. What do those mean according to the government? And also there's a lot of policies that are trying to change that. So the blog is a good way to read about that. Our blog also, oftentimes we have articles where we talk about new apps on the market and apps that are designed to help you better manage your food at home. And we talk about what we like about them, maybe what could be better, how you might use them, and things like that. And in addition to all of those tips, we also have tips from households just like you. So early in 2025, we had our first food conservation challenge. And this is where we challenge people to actually submit their ideas for how they conserve food and reduce waste at home. So we chose 5 winners from across the US. And if you scroll down this page, you can see some of their favorite ideas. So Sarah, for instance, takes her leftover jelly or jam jars and she gives you a recipe for how you could turn that into like a nice vinaigrette salad dressing. We also had cute furry friends. So Nicole and Oliver submitted an idea to use your produce trimmings to feed your pet rabbits. They also had the great idea of using milk that's near expiration and actually freezing it into pre-measured cubes that could then be used later in smoothies or soups or things like that. So you have pre-portioned milk that can be used later. If we scroll down further, we have Amber, who worked on preserving and storing food and gives tips on that. Mary kind of keeps a container where she adds like leftover veggies and meat and kind of makes freezer soup and keeps it in a container until she's ready to make a soup and then kind of takes it out to put that together as a stock. And then lastly, Terry, who I was particularly impressed with, really talks about how she can stretch her rotisserie chicken into many different meals. So really good ideas here from people all over the US. So not only are we providing resources, but we like to hear from you and talk about real practical strategies at home that people can implement to stretch their food dollars and make them go further. One of the other things we like to do is challenge people to learn about their own food waste habits at home. And one way to do this is to really kind of be your own citizen scientist. And we actually have a food waste challenge on the website that I would encourage you all to try at home just to learn more about how your household manages food. So we've got a whole set of instructions for how you could do this. So first, there is a set of instructions, but what I want to start with is the actual tool so you can see what the food waste challenge looks like. So when we do a food waste audit at home, we like to encourage people to do what we call a kitchen waste audit first. And this is where we actually are asking you to kind of take an inventory of what might not be eaten in your kitchen to begin with. And so this would be like if you already know there's moldy cheese in the drawer, we want to get it out, weigh it, record it, and then we want to kind of do that cleaning out, if you will, of things we know that won't be eaten. So then when we look at a regular day, we kind of have a good baseline of what regular truly is. So this is kind of our log sheet for that kitchen check. Again, this is going to be kind of your day zero audit activity. And this is where you go through your refrigerator, your freezer, your pantry and cabinets, and look for things that you know are unlikely to go eaten or be thrown away. Whether that be, again, in the trash, down the drain, fed to pets, ultimately not eaten by the people in your household. So what we encourage you to do is, write down a description of what you're throwing away. You can weigh it if you have a food scale at home, but you can also estimate it with like cups or you can just estimate even half a package or something like that. If you read our full instructions document, it will give you kind of guidance for that. But a home scale is great if you have one. They can be inexpensive at Walmart, Target, retailers like that. There's lots of options for under $20, but estimating is also good. The goal of the exercise is just to be more aware of how you manage food at home. So again, we like to have you describe it, give some sort of weight or estimate of how much is being thrown out. Tell us where it was stored, why you're discarding it, because it's helpful to see if we have patterns and why things are being thrown out, and then where you discard it. So after you kind of get this kitchen audit check done, then we can go back to this page and it talks about doing a daily food waste log. We usually encourage people to do this for at least 4 days so you get a sense of what's going on in your household. This log looks pretty similar to the other log, except now you're recording, which meal is it happening at? Because these are kind of your days of like what regular activity looks like. So we're going to have you tell us when it happens, describe it again, give either the weight or an estimate of how much is being thrown out, tell us why it's happening, and then also where it's going. So again, it may go in the trash or down the drain or the garbage disposal. You can feed it to pets, compost it, and other things as well. We also encourage people to report not only edible food waste, but also inedible waste. So inedible would be things like peels, pits, stems, bones, eggshells, and you might wonder why we do this. And the reason is if your household is mostly incurring inedible waste, like your solutions to trying to reduce waste might look a little bit different than someone who is regularly throwing out leftovers that no one wants to eat or food that is going bad before it can be used. So we like to record both so people can have the full picture of what's going on in their household and what types of solutions they might want to be looking at. So again, households that have only inedible waste might want to find out, like, is there community composting available near them or things like that. So that's the reason we ask you to look at both inedible and edible food waste. Some other things I want to point out on our center's page that might be helpful or just useful to know about. We also have a news and events tab. So one, we try to keep a running news feed of it, just interesting things in the news related to food conservation and waste reduction that other people might want to read about as well. So we curate this from news sources all over the internet, both national and international. And so those are here and updated on a weekly basis if you're interested in that. And then I also want to point out we have a food conservation calendar. So we try to think about all the different days. We celebrate lots of days in the US and even internationally, and just kind of give you a calendar of important days that might be coming up to be interested in. So in April, obviously, like, it's World Earth Month and we have Earth Day. We also have Stop Food Waste Day. So April's a big month where we get excited to talk about food waste, but we like to talk about it all year round. And so we have a calendar here of lots of different days that might be relevant to conserving food and reducing waste. With that, I'm going to take us back to the homepage. And the last thing I want to point out is if you're interested in learning more about our center or staying up to date with what we have going on, you can go to the bottom of any pages on our website and you can sign up for our emails here. We send out a monthly newsletter and we're also active on social media if you're interested in hearing from us in that capacity. So with that, thanks so much for your time and I look forward to connecting with you in the future if you have questions or ideas for other resources. Thank you.